So this is your badass HVAC software.
With badass HVAC right on here. Yeah, so this is just HVAC20.com. And you
ever think about changing the name to the Donkey Show?
Just for you, Bill.
Should.
Just for you.
We can upgrade you to the Donkey Show.
So it just, because I logged in a minute ago, it just popped me right in. Yeah, thankfully there's no actual client showing except for myself at the top.
Okay, so don't worry about editing that.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about that. Like I don't care if people find my address, whatever. We'll get you in, Bill. Are you a current client? No. So we set this up for CSRs. It's not perfect yet, but it's at least a good start. What's your email, Bill?
curioushvacguy at Gmail.
Let's see.
So now this is something you fill out on for every customer?
Yeah, for every customer you want to fill this out.
So you're essentially just setting up a profile, right?
Exactly, yeah. But this does have the 4 questions in here that you can ask people. It doesn't do quite what we want very well just yet. But this is it works. So here's these are the 4 questions as we call them. We mentioned them earlier. So parts of my house are uncomfortable or sticky in the summertime. Is that not a problem or a big problem at your house?
Yes, it's a pretty big problem.
You don't have air conditioning, so.
Yes.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you?
I'd say probably like an 8.
Great.
Yeah. So we tend to stay pretty comfortable somehow with the shade and somehow.
Lots of thermal mass in the house too. It probably takes a while to heat up.
Yeah.
These big old houses
Cools
just
down
take
at night, and all the plaster in the walls absorb the.
Yep. It's like an adobe house.
Yeah. Or not really absorb the cold, more or less release the heat.
Release it. Yep. Parts of the house are uncomfortable or dry in winter.
Yes.
1 to 10.
I would probably say, it's not terrible today, like probably 7.
It is nice you have the radiant for that. That helps a lot.
But if we're talking uncomfortable because of like temperature, then you're talking a little bit higher. But the dryness factor doesn't really affect me too much.
The temperature is what I care about more. I just put that in here to kind of mess with people's minds, get them thinking about it. So should you be an 8 for wintertime?
I would bump that up to like maybe even a 9.
Okay.
Just because we have such a variance of temperature between each rooms and floors, and
you don't have radiators in some of the rooms.
Yeah.
That sucks. No wonder you want to change stuff out.
Yeah.
So then are there any health concerns, allergies, asthma, mold issues, lots of dust,
No.
pests? So is it a 0?
Yeah, that's a 0.
Okay. Then are there any moisture issues, mold, mildew,
In our
standing water?
bathroom, we have a little bit of mold issues, but I'm pretty sure it's because when we take showers and whatnot, all the steam and everything just condenses on the walls.
You don't have a fan.
No fan?
No.
Okay, yeah, there you
The
go.
fan broke, and I've been meaning to replace it, but it's some sort of funky fan that I have stuffed up into the ceiling. And
This has an automatic scoring tool in it. So see, your score is 17, adding up those out of possible 40.
You didn't
4
give him-
questions.
You didn't give him a score on the mold.
Oh, I didn't know. You're right. Thank you. So scale of 0 to 10, mold moisture problems in the house. What would you say?
probably a 3.
Okay. So 3. So now you're going to be at a 20 score.
Sweet.
And like this is kind of fun. Here, I'll just go play with this. Let's just turn this down. So now it'll suggest a free quote, where before it had a comfort consult. But like I can play with this.
You would probably want the husband and the wife together for this.
Yeah, we should be doing a 2-legger, so we're not.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what she thinks.
Well, you won't get quite as much value, but you're going to learn most of what you want to learn.
Oh, okay. I'll play
So,
the
but
video.
watch what happens here. So when you go above 12, or actually, look at that. So right there. So if any of them has an 8 or higher, it suggests a comfort consult. So that's how this works. Because like if any one answer is high, you want to lean them in that direction. But this is meant to be a tool, so very soon this will be embeddable on a website.
Oh, that would be awesome.
So then they can go do this, and they can play with it and see what happens, and they'll learn the logic behind it.
So with the free quote, what is the free quote? Just like you have this system, we'll just replace the system.
Like for
sorry,
like, let's
for
just
like,
change it
okay.
out. You know, we'll give you the option for a couple different things. Buy what you want, but no consulting. So hopefully it should avoid you having to do a bunch of the song and dance that is traditionally part of quotes. So they can pump you for a specification, and then like once you give them what you want and all this stuff, and you give them a price, they go to the next guy. Can you do this for cheaper? That's really frustrating to have happen.
Well, I mean, do you actually give them, after you do the consult, like all the data? I mean, they're paying for it. Do you give them all the data where they could just walk away and do with whatever they want with it? Yeah.
Yeah. You want to do that though?
I just like in the past when I was doing, load calculations, the customer would be like, well, can I see the load calculation before I sign up with you? I'm like, no, pay a deposit and I'll give it to you. And
So,
and it's like, well, I'm not going to give you my work for free, you know what I mean?
So most people are charging $300 to $500 for what we're going to do. So as soon as you have somebody pay you to do work, now you're not a salesperson, you're a consultant. So you just flip the switch in their mind as to what you are. So you're going to give them a complete specification of the load calc and everything. They can do what they want, but write your specs so they're hard and they scare people. And then they'll get fear pricing from other people. Because I had this happen a while ago. We had a $14,000 budget for doing a green speed. And my client went off the reservation. This client has done this a bunch, actually. He's always breaking what he's supposed to do. And so he goes and just gets a bid from some guy. And the bid came back $23,000. The guy was terrified of my specification and the fact that I was putting a heat pump into a 2,700 square foot house.
So did he overbid it to get out of the job?
Yeah, it was screw you pricing or fear pricing. But my client got it, and he's like, Nate, what the hell? Like, I'm not going to pay this. This is stupid. This blows the whole project up. I'm like, did you call somebody that I asked you to call? No. Let's call them. 13.5. Done. I mean, I have to, part of my job is to have an idea where the pricing is. And as HVAC contractors, this process is mainly going to sell HVAC. So I would expect that in like 95% of situations, you're going to sell a piece of HVAC and probably no shell work. So it won't move to the CPP, the advanced audit piece of it. So this is a sales tool to help you work your way up and sell them a nicer piece of equipment that will lead them to be a happier customer, and you can make a higher margin. So everybody wins. But you have to build value. This is all a value building exercise.
I mean, I think this, to be able to embed this into a website would be huge, because the people could it's not like I'm sitting behind a computer and this is spitting out towards you. You're entering all your own data, and it's telling you what you need, you know?
I mean, depending on where you are, it'll lean you one way or the other. So with a score as high as 20, it's just going to suggest a consult. But if you're like at a 10, it'll say either one could be fine for you. Or if you have any one score that comes in 8 or higher and you saw it do it, it flips to recommending comfort consult.
Right.
But this is offering people stuff. They shouldn't feel sold on this. It's like, look, you use your numbers.
Yeah.
I don't care what they are. Use yours. And they end up landing themselves in a comfort consult. So you scored a 20, my friend.
That's
pretty bad.
I thought 20 was good.
No, it's a maximum of 40, but really once you start getting over about 10 total on the 4 questions, so there's 4 questions, maximum score of 10 of each, so maximum score of 40. But if you have a client that scores more than about 12, they usually have something to fix in their house. So this will lean them towards a comfort consult. Does that make sense for you too, Adam? Because there might only be one thing that's high. The other thing is if there's anything that they answer 8 or higher, it'll just recommend a comfort consult.
Just right off the bat, comfort consult.
Because you got something that's really screwed up, and this is trying to measure client pain. So stuff that bothers them that they're willing to pay for. Because pain is distinctly related to money. So if there's something that bothers them, they're going to pay
How
something.
much money do you want to pay to be comfortable?
Exactly.
To get rid of that pain.
Exactly. So this is helping them understand that, whether or not they fully understand what's going on yet. But so if they answer all twos, great, just do a free quote. We'll just change your equipment out. And what we're seeing is it's running about 70% free quote and 30% comfort consult. But because you don't have to do all the song and dance in the free quote that you normally do, because like if they start asking you a bunch of questions, well, maybe we should do a comfort consult because we want to cover all that stuff and make sure we do a good job. So you can stop them from their asking for free consulting and convert them to paid consulting, or it's just a fairly quick in and out. Let me measure your ductwork, see what size you got, and you give them a price.
Interesting.
So it should have the time of a free quote, and then that time would end up getting applied more to a comfort consult. And the comfort consults do take a while. I mean, most people spend like somewhere between 2 and 3 hours on a free quote when you consider drive time, being on site, and writing stuff up.
Well, what was it, last year? I had 3 companies come over and give me estimates on replacing my boiler with a forced air system and doing the ductwork. And I think the longest the guy was here was a half hour.
There you go. Well, he was going too fast. So
nobody had a tape measure I think the one guy might have had a notepad. But they all quoted me basically the same thing, and they were just in and out, and the prices were just... Well, actually, only one guy even gave me a price. The other 2 guys never even got back to me. Yeah.
Well, it was a scary job. You made them nervous because this is not an easy thing to do.
No.
And I noticed that you haven't bought a forced air system yet a year later.
No, not yet, because I haven't been satisfied with, I guess, what I actually need. Because everybody's like, oh, you need this. But I'm like, yeah, but you didn't measure anything. Like, you're just looking at my house. And I'm like, that can't be right. Like, when I go buy tires for my car, like, they look at the tire. And like, you need this tire. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, you come to my house, you look at it, but you don't take any measurements.
That's bullcrap. So, yeah, a situation like yours definitely needs more. And there's plenty of people out there that need more than a free quote, too.
You should have a question there, like, how cold is your toilet seat? Mine is very cold. Uncomfortably cold, even. So
really
if you can
chaps your ass? Is that what you're saying?
You can add that to your software, yeah.
We're trying to keep it to 4, Bill. So the big 5th question is, how cold is your ass when you sit down on the toilet?
You just put that idea in the back pocket there. You might need that someday.
All right, that might come out. There's millions of dollars sitting in that one.
Run it by the board and see what they say.
I'll buy you some beer if that works out. Okay.
I'll keep it in my fridge till you guys come back around then.
This whole thing is set up to be a script. So the comfort consult requires 3 things. You need to be reasonably good with other human beings. You need to be able to read a script, and you need to be able to run a blower door, which I can teach you in an hour or 2. It's not a hard thing. Anybody that's mechanical, if you can't figure out a blower door quick, you shouldn't be in the HVAC world. They're not that hard. So the whole thing's a script, and like everything in gray here, these are the tips. So you would read this ideally before you get there, but it helps give you tips of what to do.
Talking points forward.
Yeah. It's telling you like
behavioral cues.
Yeah, what you're supposed to be doing, how to think, where the client probably is. So you answered incorrectly to this first question, by the way, Bill. Did you get the email with the ground rules?
Oh, I got it.
Yeah, but you didn't read it.
That's right, but your question doesn't say that. I got the email. It didn't say, did you read it, though?
I'm saying no. Did you? Okay, so I'm going to change that because of you.
You should.
So, cold toilet seat, and did you actually read the damned email?
It's a loophole I just found in your system.
And then we'll ask people, like, did you read the chapters? Although we were sending 2 chapters to begin with, but it was too much. And so we backed off to just HVAC 101 because it's 16 pages. It's relatively quick. And it's a sign of interest if people read it. And then you just go into, there's a whole spiel here. But this is the goal for today, which is to figure out what are your goals, what does your house need, and what is the budget. Because if we can't get those 3 circles to cross each other, we don't have a job.
Now, how deep into I know obviously you can't get into specific costs for a budget, but do you, I guess, delve into like even a little bit of the budget, like
At
this
the end,
is
we absolutely do.
approximately how much it's going to cost you to do this, this, and this?
So that's an important question. There's 2 different ways to look at the budget, and we choose the one that homeowners usually aren't expecting. So there's what things cost, and there's what they're worth. This is trying to figure out what they're worth, because it doesn't really matter what it costs. We routinely have our guys get budgets of like $3,000 back for HVAC. It's like, congratulations, it's $8,000 for the cheap stuff. It just is.
Yeah.
But this is more about what it's worth. So like, I'm sick and tired of dealing with this, and we move people to think in monthly costs. Because if you ask for a capital number, it's almost always $5,000 or $10,000. It just kind of is. And for the bigger projects, that's not enough. And even for nice HVAC, that's not enough. Like a nice inverter system, they start at $10,000.
Oh yeah.
If you're lucky. So that's not going to get you there. But if you have them think in monthly, like, and we'll get to the question later. Michael Hausch came up with this wording. It was so if you were renting this house, how much extra would you pay in rent to make those problems go away? And most people will cough up $100 or $200, and $200 works out to $28,000 over 15 years. With 4% interest, so like a home equity line of credit. So they don't realize that they just gave you $30,000. But later, when you help connect the dots, they can understand what happened.
That's a good way to put it.
Monthly. And then if they push you on like, well, how long is this for? Like forever. Like don't give them a term. Even though we're thinking 15 years, don't tell them 15 years now. Just like for as long as you live here. Even if it's until you die. And that tends to, it helps break them loose because they need to be thinking about what is it worth, not what will it cost.
Yeah.
Because there's literally millions of permutations of what we could do to your house. We need to narrow it down to like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So that you can actually make a choice.
Viable things we can do.
And so what the house needs, what your goals are, and what the budget are, basically comes together to create that chute. So we actually know what's going to come out the other side. So that's the whole game for today, is to begin to sketch these out and see if there is a viable project in the middle. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right.
Yep.
Okay. So you get the basics there. This is today's job. Figure out what are your goals, what does the house need, and what's the budget, and do we have some prayer of making those overlap. So the rest of this is largely just kind of a little presentation, because typically there's one spouse that got you there, and the other spouse you asked to be there, and they're not happy. So you want to bring them up to speed. And here we are doing a one-lighter. Come on, man. Come on.
She'll be at home at 4, but that's not going to help us.
No, it'll be fine. We'll be on the blower door by then.
She doesn't care about the house home heating system at all. Not as much as I do. She's like, whatever, just give me some warm pajamas.
Well, then you're lucky in that, frankly. She doesn't cost you a ton on that. So this is the order of operations we'll do today. So a little bit of education. This is, again, getting both people up to speed. We'll clarify goals. There's a lot of questions. There's an hour's worth of questions. We'll take a look at the HVAC. We'll run the blower door test. Then we'll sit back down and we'll prioritize the goals and put a budget on the whole thing. And again, this budget is what is it worth, not what will it cost, because those are 2 separate things. And then we'll talk about next steps. So here's the basic building science education. So stuff that you want to solve or any clients want to solve fall into these 4 buckets. So there's either comfort issues, hot and cold rooms, health and safety issues, carbon monoxide in the basements, kids with asthma, allergies, things like that. Durability is all about moisture, things that are causing things in the house to fail. And then the last one is efficiency, and this makes a really bad goal. So these are actually worth something to people to fix. Efficiency, as soon as you bring it up, people are like, so does it pay for itself? No. Like these projects have paybacks in the centuries, usually.
Yeah.
Because realistically, you're paying maybe $1,500 a year to heat this house. So even if we can knock $750 a year out, fully half, which would be absolutely heroic to be able to do something like that. A 10-year payback maxes the project at $7,500. You can't even buy HVAC, let alone ductwork.
No, definitely not.
So there's no payback, and like so that's an unreasonably high amount of savings, and an unreasonably low project amount. There is no payback on this. The payback is your house is comfortable. Mm-hmm. That's basically what it is.
I can live with a little bit more happiness.
Exactly. So there's 3 things to control. So you want to be able to control airflow, heat flow, and moisture flow. This is the physics of how the house works. And the most important of these by far is the air, because heat and moisture travel on air. Mm-hmm. And then there's 2 different ways we have to control this. First, we need to control air, heat, and moisture going in and out of the house. So that means the house has to be relatively tight so that it's not just open. Right now, your house is going to be like this boat, like for sure. Like if this house was a boat, it would be on the bottom of Lake Michigan. That just is.
This drawing alone should be good enough to get people out of the mindset of like, well, just replace it with whatever was in there before.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, we got to test and see if is this a problem? Mm-hmm. And if this is a problem, do we want to deal with that? Because the house as it stands and the house once it's upgraded will require 2 different pieces of equipment in most cases. So if you replace the HVAC now and then do your upgrades, the equipment's going to be wrong enough that your comfort's going to be bad again. Mm-hmm. And then if you want to fix the comfort, you have to replace the equipment again. So we'd rather size a house to where it's going, not where it is.
Yeah.
And so the load calcs we run for this show where the house is and then where the house would be with reasonable upgrades.
So you might even run into a situation where like eventually the house is going to be at this level of tightness. So you're going to need almost like a smaller system. Whereas right now, if I were to upgrade it, I'd be like, well, you're going to need an 80,000 BTU furnace. Yeah. And then that's for right now with it leaky as it is. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, and so if you did an 80K, that's usually a 4-ton drive, so it'd probably get a 4-ton heat pump or air conditioner on top. Mm-hmm. And probably a 60 and a 3 would be more appropriate. Or if you get the house tight enough, a 3 or 4-ton heat pump on its own may be the right piece of equipment.
Interesting.
So it just depends, but you want to understand what is the spectrum there. Here's the house now. Here's where it could be under absolutely ideal conditions. Here's where it could be under achievable conditions. And then you can make an educated choice of your HVAC system. So the second piece of controlling air, heat, and moisture is inside the house, and that's obviously the job of the HVAC system. But first we have to see, is the house leaky or not? And like if you have a leaky boat, are you going to replace the bilge pump or upsize the bilge pump?
No.
It doesn't really fix anything. We got to fix the leaks.
Yeah, you're definitely going to need one of those little floaty keychain things.
Yep. So it's funny, I'll probably be changing this slide out as we move forward because this comes from, my background is more insulation than it is HVAC. So HVAC has been a really hard freaking thing to learn. The last 4 or 5 years have just been intense trying to figure this out.
I'm trying to learn it myself.
It's not easy. And the deeper you get, the more you realize you don't know. That's insane. So these are the 5 priorities of home performance. So if you want a house to work right, I was having trouble getting the point of air sealing across. I don't have that trouble anymore. I don't know why.
Should I air seal?
No, you should just go right to HVAC. Yeah.
Let's just upsize it. Give me a furnace the size of a semi-truck.
So this still basically applies, but you may test a house and find out that the air sealing and insulation are good enough. And about half the time, it's close enough. Like you could do more, but the nice thing when you get a newer house that's relatively well insulated and air sealed, the right piece of equipment today and after upgrades is the same piece of equipment. So it's not a big deal. It doesn't really matter. It's like, okay, let's just put this size in and we're good to go. Houses like yours are hard because it will be 2 different pieces of equipment for where the house is today and where it would be.
Once it's air sealed.
Yeah. So this is the way that it works, but we're surprised by how many houses can skip this. Because in our practice, we only have the bad houses find us. So we're like, oh, they're just all bad. Look how bad all these houses are, because all we get are the basket cases showing up at our door. But in the HVAC world, you're dealing with the public. It's everybody that shows up.
This
And
alone
plenty
makes
of
me
fun.
glad that I don't do residential HVAC. Because the amount of, in the commercial world, we don't have, like, you can't go to the owner of a dollar store brand or whatever and say, hey, we need to blower door this store. And like, for what? I don't give two craps about anything.
Just change the equipment.
Yeah, just put a bigger one up there. I don't care. I don't even have to. So this whole world is new to me.
Well, it's good if you learn a little bit of it. It still cross applies. So my partner did a commercial building. It was an office years ago, and he ended up using residential equipment. He did 2 green speeds on it, and it was an Energy Star certified building, or maybe it was LEED. It was one of those. Yeah, actually it was LEED, and the energy use on the building was so low that it was actually below the modeled range. And they said, if you actually want us to certify it LEED, we need you to get your energy use up like 5,000 kilowatt hours a year, which was crazy. So they can work really well. This is basically a good way to look at the mindset of how we look at projects. So this red line here is what we call low-hanging fruit thinking. So over here, this is stuff that happens. This is benefits and results. And then the other axis is work that you do or money that's spent. So it's, work and results. And typically what a lot of people think is when it comes to fixing stuff in the house, I'll do a couple of things and it'll make a huge difference, and then doing anything more doesn't matter. So everyone's trying to optimize for this point over here.
Yeah, right at the curve.
Yep. But the problem is, the reality is houses move like this. The first couple things you do don't change much, and then they start to really move. So where you actually want to optimize for is up here, where spending more money doesn't bring a lot more results. And the issue here is, with most people shooting for here, they actually get here. That's the reality. So the whole process in HVAC 2.0 is trying to understand, where is this point? And on a lot of houses, it's basically, we just need to put the right piece of HVAC in that's small and variable speed, and most of the problems go away. But then if you have an old leaky house like you do, there's probably more stuff that needs to happen. But it always cracks me up here when somebody's like, oh, we can fix this problem. They're like, ding, 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 like tiny little hammer. It's like, we need the sledge.
Yeah, you're not going to fix it.
Yeah.
I can't spray foam like I wanted to.
No. That's just for annoying Corbett Lunsford.
Which is okay, because he's not watching this video.
He'll hear about it. So this is that same curve looking at it a different way. So we think a lot in odds of success. So houses and buildings are complicated systems of systems. So you can't just do one little thing and have it actually move the needle. So you want to be thinking more like a doctor. It's 50-50 odds, it's 80% odds, whatever it might be. And what we want to try and design for is to get above 80% odds of success. That's a lot of what we're thinking here. And the issue is, traditional contracting is usually playing in this little bit here. And then there's other systems, like I love the passive house system. That's I joke, there's difficult, there's insane, and there's German. This is the German standard passive house. And it's crazy efficient, crazy tight, but it just isn't achievable for normal people. Like turning this house into a passive house would easily be $500,000.
Wow.
You're not going to do that.
Nope.
It's just not going to happen.
Out of my budget.
But we don't need to be going off over here. We want to find the sweet spot.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to think about is getting enough measurements, enough of an idea to be comfortable that we're going to be in the 80% or higher odds range. That's what we're trying to figure out. Does that make sense? So it's just a big diagnostics process. And that's it for the quick little intro. And then we start with warm-up questions. Because if you go straight into pain questions, it's too early. You need to get through the